He cheated on me with the one person I trusted to heal me, my therapist. If you're new here, please subscribe for more true life stories that touch the heart and remind us of our strength. Now, let me tell you my story. My name is Amelia, I'm 29 years old, and I'm a Nigerian living in the UK. When I met Daniel, I thought I'd finally found peace. He was gentle, funny, and had this calm confidence that made me feel safe. We met at a small African restaurant in South London. I was there alone after a long nursing shift. He offered to share his table since everywhere was full. That night, we talked about everything, how we missed home, how expensive London was, and how hard it can be to start over in a new country. He told me he worked in IT, I told him I was a nurse. He smiled and said, "Then you're used to helping people, that's beautiful." It felt easy. Natural. Within a few months, we became inseparable. He started spending nights at my flat, helping me cook, doing little things that made me believe love could be peaceful. He met some of my friends, and even talked about visiting Nigeria with me for Christmas. For a while, I really believed I'd found the one. But love doesn't always stay simple. It started with small changes. He became quieter, distant. He started leaving early for work and coming home late. Sometimes, he'd be smiling at his phone, and when I asked who he was chatting with, he'd say, "Just a colleague." Then came the secrets, keeping his phone locked, turning it face down, and acting defensive if I asked questions. I tried to stay calm, but the confusion was eating me up. I started questioning myself. Was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? After weeks of crying alone, I decided to get help. That's how I met Dr. Claire Morrison, my therapist. Dr. Claire was calm, professional, and easy to talk to. She had this soft British accent with a gentle tone that made me feel safe. From the first session, she listened without judgment. I told her everything, the loneliness, the tension, and how I felt like Daniel was slipping away from me. She nodded and said softly, "Amelia, you're not crazy. You're just trying to hold something that's already broken. You deserve peace." Those words stayed with me. For the first time in months, I felt like someone actually understood me. After a few weeks, therapy became my safe place. I started opening up more, even laughing again. When I told Daniel I'd started therapy, he said, "That's good, babe. Maybe it'll help you stop overthinking." At first, I appreciated that. But something about his tone didn't sound caring, it sounded defensive. A few weeks later, something strange happened. During one session, Dr. Claire asked me, "Has Daniel ever talked about how lucky he is to have you?" I laughed lightly and said, "I don't know, maybe." She smiled and said, "He should. You sound like someone worth fighting for." It felt nice to hear, but something about the way she said it didn't sit right with me, like it wasn't just professional kindness. Then she began asking more questions about him. His job, his habits, his background, things that had nothing to do with how I felt. When I asked why, she said, "It helps me understand your relationship better." I believed her. After all, she was my therapist. A few days later, I noticed Daniel acting differently. He started asking questions about my therapy sessions, what we discussed, how I felt about them. It was unusual. He'd never shown interest before. When I asked why, he said, "I just want to know if it's helping." Still, something about it didn't feel right. Then one night, I hugged him from behind while he was cooking, and I noticed a familiar scent, lavender. Dr. Claire wore lavender perfume. I'd recognize it anywhere. My heart sank. I brushed it off, telling myself it was impossible. I didn't want to believe what my mind was whispering. But everything came crashing down on a rainy Thursday. I finished work early and decided to surprise Daniel with dinner. His colleague told me he'd left the office around 3 p.m. for a personal meeting. I called him, no answer. I told myself not to panic. But a quiet voice in my head said, go find out. So I drove toward Dr. Claire's office to drop off a form she'd asked for. When I got there, her assistant said she'd gone home early for a private session. I don't know what pushed me to do it, but I drove down her street. And there it was, Daniel's car. Parked right outside her building. I froze. My hands started shaking. I waited in the car, praying I was wrong. But when I looked up, I saw shadows moving across her window, a man and a woman. Too close to be innocent. I got out, walked up to the door, and knocked. After a few seconds, the door opened. Dr. Claire stood there, wearing a robe. And behind her, half-dressed, was Daniel. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I just stared at them. My voice came out small. You. Both of you. Dr. Claire tried to speak. Amelia, please, it's not what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. Daniel looked down, unable to say a word. I whispered. You knew everything about me. My fears, my pain, my story. And you used it against me. Neither of them spoke. I turned and walked away barefoot in the rain, tears mixing with the cold drops on my face. The following weeks were hell. I replayed every therapy session in my mind, every kind word, every question. She had known everything. She knew what I'd been through and how fragile I was, and still, she betrayed me. 3 weeks later, she sent me an email. I'm deeply sorry. It wasn't planned. Feelings got complicated. She said Daniel had come to her for advice about me and that one thing led to another. I didn't reply. I forwarded her email to the British Association for Counseling and Psychotherapy, filed a formal complaint, and blocked them both. Healing wasn't easy. I moved apartments, changed my number, and started seeing a new therapist, an older woman named Mrs. Thompson, who mostly listened and never pried. It took months before I could talk about Daniel without breaking down. But one day, I looked at myself in the mirror and realized something. I was still standing. Broken, yes. But still standing. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to love yourself enough to walk away from people who hurt you, even when you love them. About a year later, I heard Dr. Claire lost her license. Someone else had reported her too. As for Daniel, he texted me one night saying, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. I did forgive him, but quietly, for my own peace. Not because he deserved it, but because I deserved to move on. Now, when I tell this story, I don't tell it with pain anymore. I tell it as proof that even when the people meant to heal you become the ones who break you, you can still rise. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And in the comments, tell me. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you find your strength again? Your story might be the one someone else needs to heal.